image, and we're going to use the Object Selection Tool. I'm going to make sure I have the name right. It's grouped over with the Quick Selection Tool and the Magic Wand, so you can select that. And this is a kind of newer tool to Photoshop. It's pretty cool in that it's going to try to recognize. So if you float your cursor around your object, or your photograph, it's trying to find the object or the different objects that are in your photograph. And it works well with some photographs, and it struggles with others. So you can always just sort of check and see if this is going to be a quick grab for you. Like, I wonder if I go over to the butterfly. Sorry. I was experimenting earlier. So if I move over to the butterfly, and if I tried to grab the butterfly, yeah, it's not really gonna work on that image. So it's worth just giving it a shot. So with the Object Selection Tool, I could do a couple things. So I could grab this cabin here just by clicking it, and it does a great job because the background's really clear. It didn't get everything in the cabin down here, right? But I could add to that selection. So if I wanted to grab my lasso tool, for example, and then just add that little bit that's being shaved off with some of the grass there. And so if I wanted to get rid of my background, for example, I could go to Inverse and Cut. And now I have my little isolated cabin that I could do something with. I'm going to Command Z and undo. One thing that I meant to mention with the mushroom and also with the butterfly was that it's a good idea when we make selections to also add a little feather. Sometimes we'll need it, or to smooth the selection so that if the selection is really jagged and when we cut something out, it doesn't look really extra pixelated or the edge isn't really rough. So I'll do that with the cabin just to show you. That's a helpful tool. So we've got the cabin selected, and if I go up to Select and Modify, there's some different things I can do with my selection here. I can smooth it. If I smooth it, I could choose the radius. I'll say, 5 pixels. So it's going to smooth at the tolerance of 5 pixels. And that, if you notice, just gets rid of a little bit of the extra bumps of my selection. I can also go to Select, Modify, and use Feather or Expand or Contract. So I can make it bigger or smaller by the number of pixels. And I can also feather, which is nice to just give a softened edge to selection if you're going to cut it out. So I'm going to feather for about 5 pixels here too. And then I could select and inverse and cut out my cabin, and you'll see with that 5 pixel feather, it's a bit transparent on the edge, so maybe that was too much for my small cabin. So I could undo and feather a little less, or maybe I don't need the feather at all on this in this scenario. Okay, I'm going to undo, Command Z, because I wanted to show you one other thing. So I'm going to use my Object Selection Tool again, this time to select the field in the front. It won't let me select the background. The background's fairly easy to get rid of. It's all kind of one color. You could create, your own shiny sky back there if you wanted to. But I wanted to show you this generative fill option that's also newer in Photoshop. We'll play with this a little bit more, but I just wanted to show you what it does now and then how we could maybe do better. If you don't have this contextual taskbar, you can go to Window and check that mark contextual taskbar to turn that on. But if you've made a selection, they have some quick things here that you can do with it. You can make an adjustment layer, you could fill it, you could create a mask. But let's just try for fun, generative fill. what generative fill is doing is it's kind of AI generating from stock photos, Adobe stock photos, trying to blend into your image, whatever you're telling it to. So I'm going to say grassy field to see what happens. It's going to generate and look for these high-res images that are in Adobe stock and try to find a match and bring that in. And it kind of manipulates it a little bit too. So, okay, so that's interesting. The field looks okay. The fence is kind of funky. What is like that barbed wire? So it gives me a couple of options over here. I'll check these out. The connection right there with the cabin is weird. It's like making a bottom of the cabin. You can also just continue to go, and you could refine your prompt if you want. You could say prairie. You could, give it some more specifics and see what happens. It says you could make a broader selection if you're wanting to give it something different. Okay, now we have a rock in the front, the foreground. That's interesting. But yeah, there's still something funky happening over there with the fence and the cabin. So it's worth trying out, and then maybe what it does is it creates over in my layers panel a generative layer and a grassy that says grassy field, right? And then there's a mask. So I could probably work that mask a little bit with my brushes, taking away. So if I wanted to get rid of this weirdness here, although that's going to show the original photo underneath. But maybe now there's some field in the background. So this might take some manipulating, but I just wanted to show you that you could play with that if you wanted to in terms of photo editing.